Welcome to This Explainer. Think of this as our own personal one-on-one tutoring session. If you've been banging your head against a wall trying to boost your TOEIC score, you are in the exact right place. We're going to break down the science of the test and how you can systematically overcome those frustrating plateaus that hold so many students back. Let's dive right in. I see this literally all the time as a tutor. You know the drill, you're studying vocabulary for hours. You're taking practice test after practice test, and yet your score just will not budge. It is incredibly frustrating, isn't it? You might be sitting there asking yourself why months of genuine hard work just aren't translating to a higher number on your certificate.
Well, I'm going to give you a little tough love here, but it's exactly what you need to hear. For a lot of you, it's actually not a lack of English ability that's holding you back, it's your test-taking strategy. You're falling for hidden traps that are deliberately set by the test makers. But don't worry, because in this session, we're going to fix that strategy together and learn exactly how to outsmart them.
First up, beating the listening traps. You see, the TOEIC listening section isn't just checking if you hear words, it is actively trying to trick your brain. The biggest mistake you can make here is passive listening. Just letting the audio wash over you and hoping the right answer magically jumps out. The real solution? Active listening and the elimination method. As you listen, you've got to immediately cross out the choices that are obviously incorrect. Wrong answers often describe a scene inaccurately, but they'll use very familiar vocabulary to bait you. To use this elimination method effectively, you really need to understand your enemy. And your enemy is the distractor. Distractors are test answers that look or sound correct, but they are deliberately wrong. They're engineered to exploit poor auditory comprehension and trick you into picking them just because they sound familiar. So let's look at exactly how they do this in part 2 of the test. The test makers use specific auditory traps. First up, repeated words. If the prompt asks, "Can you show me how this printer works?" and an answer says, "Yes, the printer works well," that is a trap. Second, homophones and similar sounds. Think confusing boss with bus or wait with wait. And third, incorrect semantic associations. Say a question asks about a manager's schedule, a distractor might mention lunch or hamburger, trying to link associated words that don't actually logically answer the question.
Oh, and we absolutely can't talk about listening traps without mentioning the infamous being trap in part 1. If you're looking at a photograph of an empty room, the test might offer a passive voice description like, "The machine is being repaired." Now, because you hear the word being, it implies an action is currently happening by a person. But if there are absolutely no people in the photo doing that action, it is a trick. Cross it out immediately.
Next, we're moving on to mastering reading time limits. In the reading section, your biggest enemy isn't tricky vocabulary, it's the clock. 75. That is the exact number of minutes you have to answer 100 reading questions. When my students realize they have less than a minute per question, that overwhelming feeling of being rushed, totally validated. The sheer volume and pace make this section a literal race against time. Because of this incredibly strict time limit, we have got to change your mindset completely. The absolute worst mistake you can make is trying to translate every single word in your head. That habit absolutely guarantees you'll run out of time. The solution is adopting the professional reading techniques of skimming and scanning.
The difference between these two techniques is super important. Skimming involves reading quickly to understand the main ideas, the headers, and the overall purpose of the text. Basically, you want the gist. Scanning, on the other hand, is searching like a laser for specific details, maybe a date, a name, a price, or a product number, using keywords from the question itself.
All right, now let's talk about conquering the hardest part of the exam.
To really conquer Part 7, we have to use what's called a priority-based pacing model. Instead of just taking the test equally from front to back, you must allocate your time drastically differently. Part 5 should take a maximum of 10 minutes. Part 6, also 10 minutes. This leaves a massive 55 minutes exclusively for Part 7. Now, why do we do this? Well, let's think about it logically for a second. Staring at an unknown grammar rule or an unfamiliar vocabulary word in Part 5 for 2 minutes is not going to magically make you know it. You either know it or you don't. But saving that extra time for Part 7 is a brilliant tactical move. In Part 7, the answers are factually written right there in the text. An extra minute of scanning directly increases your chances of finding that factual answer. When you finally get to those Part 7 passages, whatever you do, avoid diving headfirst into the giant text block. A super common mistake is reading the entire passage before even looking at the questions. This just wastes valuable minutes. The smart solution is reading the questions first so you have a totally clear target of what information you're actually hunting for.
Here is the exact step-by-step sequence you must follow on test day. Step 1. Read the questions to focus your search. Step 2. Quickly skim the passage just to grasp the main idea and logical flow. And Step 3. Scan the text for the specific keywords you identified back in Step 1. This sequence is absolutely your ultimate weapon against that ticking clock.
Finally, let's look at practicing like a pro. Knowing these strategies is one thing, but training your brain to actually execute them under pressure is another ballgame entirely. A lot of students think preparation just means taking full practice tests over and over again. But rushing into practice exams without diagnosing and correcting your errors, that just reinforces your bad habits. If you don't correct a mistake, you're just going to make it again next time. The solution here is active review, categorizing your mistakes by skill, analyzing the transcripts, and finding out exactly why you fell for a distractor. To build real cognitive skills and not just test-taking stamina, you should try these targeted practice drills. For listening, use prompt response framing. Try pausing the audio after a Part 2 question and predict a logical response out loud before you even hear the options. This stops you from relying on the multiple choice crutch. For grammar, try distractor reframing. Take the incorrect options from a Part 5 question and write brand new sentences where those words actually are used correctly. It deeply reinforces your grammar rules and word forms.
Our entire tutoring session today really just comes down to this core philosophy. Success doesn't just come from staring at a textbook. It comes from deeply understanding the test format, deploying these proven, priority-based strategies, and practicing systematically and actively.
We've covered a lot of ground today, from sidestepping that sneaky being trap to drastically prioritizing Part 7. So, my final question to you is this. Are you ready to stop taking these tests passively and start actively outsmarting the test makers? Take these strategies, apply them to your practice this week, and watch your score finally break through that plateau. Thanks for hanging out with me for this explainer. Keep practicing, and I know you're going to crush it.